All right, guys, we need to talk about Tyree Wilson, a guy who we spent a 7th round draft pick on. And there are some troubling reports that are coming out of training camp that is not boding well for the future of Tyree Wilson with the Las Vegas Raiders or potentially even in the NFL. And we're going to get into that and more today on the Raider D podcast. Okay, guys, so here's what's going on. We all know that Tyree Wilson was a 7th round draft pick with the Raiders last year, and he was injured coming in, and a lot of analysts said that the Raiders way overreached grabbing Tyree Wilson at pick number 7. One is because he was injured, and we didn't know the full extent of the injury because it was a foot injury. And a guy who is a defensive end who has a foot injury, that spells trouble. And so he missed the entire training camp last year and did not see a lot of action in any of the offseason. So when he was put in to start playing games, he really struggled to grasp the defense, and he really struggled in one of the key areas that is a downfall for him, and that is his get off. When the ball is snapped, you look at Max Crosby's get off, and it is instantaneous. He is already in motion, and he is lightning fast. When you compare that to Tyree Wilson, you see the offensive lineman, whether he's going up against a guard or a tackle, is almost already completely in their stance and anchored down. This gives the offensive lineman a massive advantage over Tyree Wilson, because when you're going up against an offensive lineman, you want them to be off balance. You want their feet already moving. You don't want them anchored down. You don't want them in position, the position of dominance over you. And time again, this is what happens to Tyree Wilson, simply because his get off is like watching molasses run down the side of a tree. Yes, Tyree Wilson is a physical phenomenon. He is huge. He is strong. And in college, this benefited him amazingly because it didn't matter how slow his get off was. He was simply stronger than half of the offensive linemen in college. But in the NFL, that's not the case. Every single offensive lineman that he's going against is just as strong as Tyree Wilson is, if not stronger. So he can't rely on that raw bull rush strength. He needs to have get off, he needs to have footwork, and he needs to have hand fighting. He needs to have a repertoire of moves that he can use against an offensive lineman. And when you watch Tyree Wilson, his get off is slow. Second, he uses the same exact rush almost every single time. He has no swim move. He has no underhooks. He has nothing. He simply tries to push the guy in front of him backwards. And that's not working in the NFL. And apparently, it's not working in training camp. He has not made any major improvements, according to Vic Tafur and others who have come out and said, even his own teammate, Adam Butler, was asked about him, and he said, well, he's making baby steps. He needs to just focus on one thing at a time. We don't want Tyree Wilson making baby steps when you're drafted number 7 overall. You need to be making massive leaps. When you're drafted that high as a defensive lineman, you should come in and get 7 sacks your rookie year, not 3.5. When you're drafted number 7 overall in the draft as a defensive edge, you need to be having an impact in your rookie year. And we all gave him the excuse simply because he was injured when we drafted him. Okay, no excuses now. Here's the problem. Malcolm Koonce is up for a contract extension this year. And Malcolm Koonce really balled out last year in the second half of the season when he finally got his opportunity. He has blossomed. And here's another problem. Malcolm Koonce, from reports coming out of training camp, has been on fire. The dude is unblockable. His bend is incredible. His hand fighting, his motor, his get off, everything. He is matching Max Crosby on the other side of the football, and Tyree Wilson is not. Tyree Wilson is probably going to get moved to the inside because you cannot be a defensive end pass rushing specialist and be slow as molasses coming out of the snap. Your get off has to be lightning fast, and his is not. As an interior lineman, he's going to be a rotational piece, and it's really going to be to help stop the run. If he can get some pressure on a quarterback, great. If he can get 3 or 4 sacks, okay. The problem is we have John Jenkins and Adam Butler for that. So this could be a massive waste of a high first round draft pick for the Raiders. Yet again, for whatever reason, we have really struggled in drafting defensive linemen over the past 20 years. We really struck gold with Max Crosby, but let's be honest, no one expected Max Crosby to be who he is, and that's why he was drafted where he was drafted, and that's why the analysts said the things they said about him. But he has morphed himself through sheer will and obviously the help of God in order for him to be as successful as he is. And I'm not sure that I see that same motivation and willpower to be that guy in Tyree Wilson.